Hello there, and welcome to tonight's conversation. I am super thrilled that you have chosen to spend a few moments with me tonight as we talk about the power of celebration, the power of uh, acknowledging our consistency, and also the power of reflection. As we begin our conversation tonight, I'd just like to take a few moments to introduce myself, just in the event that there's somebody here who is joining me for the very first time. And if you are, I appreciate you being here. And if you are a returning supporter, again, thank you so very much. Who am I? And it's a question that we ask people all of the time. But tonight, I want to share with you that I'm Duquesa Dean. I help women evolve into the women that they're born to be and to step into the dream life that they've always wanted to live. I am a certified speaker. I am a published author of four books and two compilations. I am a self development and professional development mentor, a mother of two amazing adult children, and a Bahamas beach lover. I absolutely adore the beaches in the Bahamas, especially the beaches that are on the outer islands of the country that are clean and pristine and usually empty. I've worked with many leading businesses in the Bahamas and also some businesses across the world in my corporate training business. And personally, for professional and for personal development, I've worked with women from all over the world. I've been in this journey for well over 15 years, and I find it something that I believe I've been purposed to do. But tonight or today, depends on when you're watching this, wanted to come by and have a quick conversation with you about the power of reflection, first of all, and also talking about our successes, our lessons, and stretching it just a little bit further at how we could identify patterns that we may have been maintaining in our lives the last three, the last five, or the last 10 years without even recognizing it. Now, many times we are our hardest critics. If that is something that you agree with, let me know. Type in comments and let me know. But we are our hardest critics. We would execute something and sit down and think about all of the ways that we didn't do it right. We focus a lot on what needs to improve. We focus a lot on how things could have been better. And with that mindset, it keeps us nitpicking at ourselves. In our conversation tonight, though, I want to focus a little bit more on successes because I believe that we should celebrate more. At the time that I'm sharing this live with you, we are near the end of November 2022. And as you sit wherever it is that you are at this moment, or whatever year you may be in watching this, and consider how you've executed in the past year, I want you to think about some of the things that you've been really successful at. And I'd love it if you would comment in the chat and engage with me and let me know what are some of the ways that you've been successful? What are your strengths and skills, and how have you used them during this year to help you elevate or evolve your life in any way? And when I say in any way, I mean in any way. Um, are you someone that's using your strength to encourage other people, to motivate other people? Are you that person that people come to, that shoulder that they lean on? And are you really celebrating yourself for providing a safe space for people to come to share? And you can help them through whatever situation it is that they're going through. Or are you someone that's using your voice in advocacy? Are you speaking up for the less fortunate? Are you speaking up for injustice that you see in the world? How are you using your voice to show up and to shine in the world? Are you using your hobbies? Like, what are some of your hobbies? Let me know in the comments. Like, what are some of your hobbies? And are you indulging in those hobbies because they are in your strength zone. It's things that you do effortlessly, so you give it no thought. And how are you celebrating yourself for, let's just say, completing a puzzle in under 5 minutes? Or let's say knitting some crochet or knitting that you're doing that you completed within an hour that should have taken months to complete. Or perhaps it's you're exercising and you, instead of doing 30 minutes, you're doing an hour or 50 minutes, you're stretching yourself. How are you really celebrating yourself for the hobbies that you are indulging in and enjoying consistently? Um, are you a lighthouse for other people? Are you a beacon of hope? Like just standing there as a reminder without even having to say that you've gone through so many hardships? Because let's just think about what lighthouses do. They stand there and their light is on to guide the ship to shore. So, is your life similar to a lighthouse? Because that's a strength. That's a beautiful strength, actually, that you can use to bring value and add value to the world and add value to people around you? Are you celebrating yourself for your resiliency, for your strength, for your stickability, for your ability to bounce back from whatever hardships? Because you guys know life is about cycles and seasons. So are you celebrating yourself for how you're navigating those seasons? Are you creating opportunities for others? Because there's so many of the people in my circle who are givers. We help other people, we help to create opportunities for other people. So how are you creating opportunities for others and celebrating yourself? How are you patting yourself on the back? Because we focus so much on the way that we execute that we really don't focus on the fact that we are executing. So, how are you really celebrating yourself for the value that you bring to your family, to your friends, to your career, to your work environment? And I'd really like to know. So that's the first thing I want to encourage you to do is you sit and begin to think about the year that you're currently in, the year that we're currently in, and you think about all of the things that you've done from the beginning of the year to today's date. Look for the things that you've done well so that you can celebrate those things. We look for external validation. And external validation means that we're giving our power to somebody else. We're waiting for somebody else to say, job well done. We're waiting for somebody else to say, that was really great. When we should shift that and begin to give ourselves internal recognition, because internal recognition is something that we have more control of. It's the power that we hold and harness. So that's the first point in my conversation tonight. How are you celebrating yourself? The second thing that I'd like to share with you about is, where have you been consistent? Because seriously, do we celebrate ourselves and pat ourselves on the back for the consistency that we show in our lives? How have you been consistent on your mom duties? Are you getting up? Are you getting the kids ready? Are you making breakfast? Are you dropping them to school every day? Are you stopping and really saying to yourself, you know what? Good job on coming out of feelings and getting into discipline and executing despite how you may feel. Because as a mom, I know that there were many times I put my personal needs aside and did what had to be done so that my children could be happy consistently. So, are you doing that consistently? And how are you showing yourself appreciation, love, thoughtfulness, and celebrating yourself for being consistent in the execution of your duties as a mom? Are you being consistent in showing up to work? Because, we don't want to go to work every day. And these are all the important ways that we can celebrate ourselves. Have you had perfect attendance or near perfect attendance or improved attendance? Like, what is it about going to work every day that you could celebrate yourself for? Are you being a good steward of your organization's requirements and finances and work? Like, how are you being consistent in your career? Or have you been consistent in supporting someone else? That may be a friend, that may be a family member, that may be some stranger that you may not even know, but you may go and pay it forward at a coffee shop or at a gas station consistently. Like you do this every month, every week, every quarter. It doesn't matter what time period it is, it's just a consistent action. How are you celebrating yourself for the thing that you think is so small, but you are being consistent in? How are you celebrating yourself for volunteering? Are you involved in any civic organizations? Are you involved in any development organizations? Are you involved in serving your family or serving your church? And you're consistently showing up to usher. You're consistently showing up at the community involvement events. How are you celebrating that consistency? Because you may sit back and think, you know what, I have nothing to celebrate. I don't do enough. There's nothing for me to celebrate. But as you can hear, there's so much that we can celebrate about what we do. What about celebrating just getting up in the morning? Many times we want to just stay underneath that cozy blanket, don't want to go to work, don't want to bother with the kids, don't want to bother with our spouses, but we get up anyway and do what's necessary. That is called consistency. That is called discipline over emotion. So, how are you really celebrating yourself for those things? That is celebrating for how you show up and celebrating for the consistency that you are actually showing up in. Those things deserve celebration. Those things deserve to be valued, to be appreciated, and they deserve us doing that. They deserve us looking at ourselves and looking at all of the good that we do and how we contribute positively in the world because we look so much with a critical eye. However, that critical eye is stopping us from looking at ourselves in a more positive light. So now that we've looked at how to celebrate ourselves for how we execute and celebrate ourselves for the consistency by which we execute, I want to ask you now as you consider how you've performed during the course of the year that we're in, what are the areas that you can actually improve in? What are some of the areas now that we're looking into going into a new year? And so, as we're looking into heading into a new year soon, what are the areas that you think that you can improve in? Is it leveling up your skills? Do you need to become more of an expert in your field? And it is said to take 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert at something. Do you want to be known as an expert? And if you do, what does that require of you? So, how do you level that up? Could it be in your career? Are you looking for a promotion? These things just don't randomly happen. I mean, it's a very few people. So, what is it that you're looking for in your career as it relates to leveling up? How would you like to level up your career? And what is required of you? Because leveling up in your career is going to take some sacrifice on your behalf so that you do what's necessary to move you from where you are to where you want to go. So I see Shelly is saying that at this stage in her life, she can celebrate having been consistent in the work environment for the last 40 years, and her reward is now being able to wind down. I celebrate you, Shelly, for your consistency, for working hard, and for preparing for the day that you'll wind down and still be able to enjoy life. Celebrate that because that's a huge milestone. 40 years is a huge accomplishment. So as we talk more about how do we level up now, as we talk about how we can improve, do you need to get in personal development? A good friend and I were having a conversation about people and personal development and the fact that a lot of people don't seem so interested in investing in personal development at this time. And it could be because a lot of people have lost hope. Without hope, it's really hard to move forward. We get stuck when there is no hope. And personal development is one of those things that we cannot sacrifice because it is through personal development that we get to elevate every other area of our lives. Hey, Patrice, so nice to see you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And so, personal development is how we get out of the valley experience. Personal development is how we get out of hard experiences. We look for the lesson in the experience so that we could grow from the lesson. And personal development doesn't always have to cost money. It could be following a channel on YouTube. where someone is sharing their advice, like I am tonight. Or it could be grabbing a book, reading a book. Sometimes it requires the services of a coach. And I want to tell you about 4 or 5 years ago, I found myself in a position where I'd hit a plateau. I had done everything that I knew how because we can only go as far as our experience allows us to go. And I did everything that I possibly could to take me to that point, and I didn't know how to push past that would seem like this concrete wall. So I remember that year uh, getting involved with a coach, and this coach charged me. Her rate was what I had in the bank plus $200. And I remember spending that money with the coach and only having $200 in my bank account. And that was important to me because I knew the future that I had been created to live required me getting past that hump. And so investing in personal development meant that I had to sacrifice some money so that I could gain the experience of someone that was currently a millionaire who could teach me how to move forward. So when we stop personal development, we actually get stagnant and we are stuck like we are in what's it called? It's not much sinking sand. And it pulls us down further and further because there's nothing edifying us and building us up. So we can improve in personal development. Do you need to improve your inner circle? I was actually watching, and I would recommend that you follow this channel on YouTube. It's called alux.com, ALUX.com. And I was actually not a long while ago watching this program on ALUX, and they were talking about 15 signs of wealthy people. One of the things they spoke about was the fact that you network at your net worth. And that is so powerful because I don't know if you noticed the circles. Wealthy people associate with wealthy people. And it's usually very hard to get into that inner circle of wealth. So we have to create our own circles. And when we create our own circles, those circles have to be people who are stimulating us as we are stimulating them. They're bringing value, they're adding value, they're bringing contribution just as much as you're giving. So the circle is a supportive circle. So perhaps as you move forward in this year and into the new year, it may mean now that it's time to take a look at the circle of people around you because they are directly impacting your elevation or you getting deeper in sinking sand. Sometimes it's difficult to elevate your life and leave people behind. And I want you to know tonight, today, whenever you're watching, that you elevating your life is not losing anyone, it's not leaving anyone behind because everyone can make that same choice to grow, to develop, to elevate. And should they choose not to do that, that is their personal choice. And it has nothing to do with your choice to become the best at who you could be and what you want to be. Now, as I start to bring our live conversation to a wrap tonight, I want to talk about the power of reflection because we talked about celebrating, we talked about consistency, and we spoke about, the need to improve. So I want to wrap this up talking about the power of reflection because this is going to get a little deep for you. Think about an illness. I want you to think about an illness, any illness that comes to your mind before you know that you have or somebody has that illness, there has to be a diagnosis. So you either see the symptoms of something, right, Patrice, who's a menopause coach, you see the symptoms of something, you go to see a specialist, you research it, whatever, and you determine that, hey, I'm in menopause. You may find a lump in your breast, under your arm. As a result of that lump, you go to the doctor, you have a visit. The doctor says, hey, there's a cancer or something that we need to focus on. So before we can get to a cure, we need a diagnosis. And that's the power of reflection. Because I use medical examples just now, but I want to use life examples because we need a diagnostic that shows us how we've been operating the past 3 years, the past 5 years, the past 10 years. Because, like I shared with an inner circle member today, when we create goals and when we create visions for our lives, we are promised that our lifespan would be anywhere from 0 to 3 score and 10, and by reason of strength, longer. So most people will live 50, 60, 70 years. And if we are living for that amount of time, why are our goals restricted to 1 year? Why are we plotting goals for 1 year if those goals aren't tied into a much bigger picture? So when you're 50, what do you want your life to look like? So if you're 20, what do you want your life to look like when you're 50? If you're 50, what do you want your life to look like when you're 70? Why are we dreaming in year blocks? So the first thing that we have to look at is expanding our vision beyond 1 year and making sure that the vision that we're executing, those goals that we're executing annually, are tied to a bigger picture goal. That bigger picture goal is what should anchor us. So that's futuristic. But let's talk about the past and the power of reflection. Because if we took time to look at how we executed and showed up in life in 3 year, 4 year, 5 year blocks, we'll begin to identify some patterns. I want to use losing weight because I made a commitment this year that I would lose weight and I didn't meet my goal. Now, here's the thing, I set myself up to fail because I wanted to lose 20 pounds in 3 or 4 months, which meant that it would be a vigorous program, one that I would not be dedicated to sticking to, and my life would not be able to support. So I set myself up for failure, not just 1 year, not just 2 years, not just 3 years, but at least 5 years. As I look back and I reflect on the fact that this has been a goal for multiple years, I realize that I'm setting myself up year after year to fail. So that's a pattern of failure in weight loss. I want to take you a little bit deeper. And I'm using myself as an example because I now had to inspect this. Why am I setting a goal every year to use 20 pounds within a short period of time and I'm not meeting the goal? What is that rooted in? What is that rooted in? Because this is how reflection works. So I had to go to the place of the root of why I'm not losing my weight. And here are some things that I came into the realization of. First and foremost, my weight is safety. And do you know why my weight is safety? Because when I was 15 and 16 and the older man would come on to me and would be inappropriate with me, it was because they saw this Coca-Cola shaped beautiful woman or child, because I was literally still the child. And so from the place of the trauma that experienced 16 in my 15, 16 years of the fact that men look at external beauty and want the innermost parts of me, that weight is somewhat of a protection because they have an image in their mind of what they want in their bed. And if I didn't meet that image, then I would be protected from the advances or the unwanted advances that are out there. We have to go back to the belief. So let's talk about another pattern because that right there, that root is the reason why I'm failing at losing the weight because I don't want to go back to the place of having, I mean, it was crazy the amount of people that hit on me when I was skinny. So, yes, Coach T, reflection is indeed powerful for our root cause. Let's use another example, though. Let's use another example of why our career may not be progressing the way that we want it to progress. Let's look at uh, we want to be promoted. We want to be promoted. We want to be in management, senior management, upper level management. We have a desire to move from employee up the ranks for career progression. And we may have applied for a promotion and been denied. And so we want to go back to history now. When we're denied the opportunity for that promotion, it goes back to the place of when we were either rejected as children and we get into these emotions and then decide, well, if I didn't get that promotion, I'm just going to do enough. Because it took us back to a belief that we had to compete for love or that we weren't good enough. And so, because we weren't good enough, we do just about enough, which keeps us stuck in the job that we're in. And so if we look back over our lives, 3 years, 5 years, even 10 years, and we identify our patterns, we can then do a diagnostic to say, I need to get rid of this particular thing. How do I do that? So, my new goal for the incoming year is, yes, Coach T, doing just enough. And you know, when we tap out because we don't believe we're being treated fairly, that's what we shift to. We don't own our power and say, I'm going to level up my skills or I'm going to go somewhere else. We shift into existing, which means that we're working to live and not, it means that we're living to work and not working to live, right? But that's another conversation. And so we have to do a diagnostic. What are your beliefs leading you to do? Because your beliefs are leading to an action. And Esther and Perry Newton are saying it, we have to break the patterns, right? Every action or inaction. Even when we don't take action, that's an action. And so every action or inaction is leading to something. And we're taking that action or not taking that action because of an underlying belief. Beliefs drive actions. So look at your past, 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, and see how you have been executing. And in the areas where you know you want to place more emphasis and more priority, it requires a different game plan. Because insanity is what? Doing the same thing year after year after year and getting the same result. So if you're still making annual plans, we may need to tweak that because the plan has to be connected to a larger purpose. If you are still making goals that are unrealistic, we have to look at that, right? Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me know that I'm right. If you are making unrealistic goals because you're setting yourself up to fail to prove a point to yourself, that's a pattern that has to be broken. If you are choosing toxic men because you don't believe that you're deserving, that's a pattern that has to be identified and then addressed. So remember, action drives belief. Our actions will develop into patterns, and our patterns will help us to diagnose the things that we need to adjust. So, as I wrap it up, let me just share my plan for my new year. It's still to lose 20 pounds. However, I have made a plan to address my pattern of wanting it done in the first quarter or the first 6 months. 20 pounds a year is 20 pounds. So, what am I going to do? Lose 2 pounds a month over 12 months. That's more realistic. It's not overwhelming, and I don't feel like I have to do such vigorous exercise and work and starve myself to try to meet a goal within a shorter period of time. That makes sense to me, and I believe that it is more attainable. So, yes, Coach T, we have to address the patterns. We have to go to the root of what's causing the patterns. And as Esther and Perry is saying, it is easy to plan, but it's hard to execute those plans. Absolutely. And Coach T is saying that we have to have smart goals. And so a plan is just a plan if we don't take action on it. And the reality is, many of us aren't making our plans detailed enough. We're not creating micro goals for ourselves so that we can take action. We still have our goals too large. They're not broken down in digestible pieces. Just how you have to cut that steak up or that chicken up on your plate to make it small enough for you to chew, your goals have to be just as digestible. Small, incremental steps that get to the larger goal. So, as you close out one year and you look towards opening another year, I'd like to encourage you to sit down, think back on the entire year, look for the things that you should celebrate about yourself. Celebrate yourself for your skills, how you show up, for how you use your talent, your voice, how you be a lighthouse for other people. I want you to celebrate yourself for consistency of staying at it, for your resilience. I want you to look at the areas that you may want to improve in, and keep it simple. It can't be 10, it can only be a couple. How do you want to improve? And then look at the last 5 year block of your life to determine what your patterns are and how your patterns are showing up. Yes, digestible goals is how you do it. And Coach T is saying, yes, we have to celebrate those wins. Now, if you need some support in creating that blueprint, I invite you to join me. I'm having a live masterclass on December 16th. I invite you to join me in person, 15 people only, because I want to help you create that blueprint that you can execute. But before we create that blueprint, we are going to look at the patterns that have you feeling hopeless. We're going to look at the patterns that have you shackled and tied. We're going to look at the patterns that have you stuck. And we're going to get to the root of those patterns so that you can be released from them. And when you are released, you can soar. So I'm going to place a link in the chat. You can go ahead and check the course out. If you're interested in showing up in person, click the link and register. I will also be offering a virtual course on this exact thing. Listen, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Yes, we must improve our lives. And so, if you want to jump off that routine living, if you want to stop doing the same things over and over and over and over and getting the same results, but you don't know how, I invite you to join me in this live class on December 16th, or you can look forward to the virtual class that will be launching soon. I look forward to supporting you. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your comments. And hey, guys, have a great time. Whatever you're off to do today, tonight, have a great time. Take care. I celebrate you. Goodbye.